Hey guys, what's up? Today I'm gonna show you 10 great games that are not RPGs. Instead, they are hidden gems with RPG elements. And all of them were released outside of Japan. So let's begin! Number 10. Bomberman Tournament. I know it's hard to believe there's a Bomberman game with strong RPG elements, but trust me, it's real, and it's good. Obviously, you play as Bomberman in this quest-driven game, where your goal is to find caravans to train them for the tournament. You will enter towns to gather information and side quests that will take you to the overworld. In these top-down view areas, the gameplay will be like a classic Bomberman. You need to position your bombs to defeat the enemies and carve your way through. The caravans part is very similar to Pokemon, as you will acquire them in order to train them. The purpose is to have them fight in these one-on-one battles. Here you will select the 3 actions your creature will execute. Then the combat will begin on turns, but you won't have any control. It's weird and it relies a lot on luck and strategy. However, once you start learning the patterns and the weaknesses of your enemies, it'll be more fun. Overall, Bomberman Tournament is a neat action-adventure game worth checking out for its charm and uniqueness. Number 9. Bladestorm: The 100 Years' War. This is a very experimental game, also available on the PS3, PS4, PC and Xbox One. It looks like a Dynasty Warriors clone, but it isn't. Here you'll customize your mercenary who will become an army leader to take on different quests. Since the game involves historical events, historical figures will therefore take a part in the overall plot. Unlike the Warriors titles, this is not a hack-and-slash adventure. This is a real-time strategy game where you lead your characters and their soldiers to fight against hordes of enemies. However, the fighting will be done by selecting several actions of the squad you'll be commanding. They'll be controlled by the AI and you'll have to maneuver by giving them orders. Weaknesses play a major role here. For example, cavalry is strong against sword infantry but weak against lancers, and so on. So deciding which type of squad to lead for which battles is the key to victory. Also, these are played on real time and each breaks down by days, which in the game translates as 10 minutes. Within that time, you'll have to focus on destroying enemy squads, capturing villages, castles or even cities. In the end, it's all about deciding through these long maps which nation you'll favor with your victories. So if you're up for something experimental, try out Bladestorm, as it is definitely a very unique experience. Number 8. Magic Sword. An overlooked gem on the Super Nintendo is Magic Sword by Capcom. It is a side-scroller with incredibly good music, fast-paced action and great controls. By looking at it, I know it looks like your average, Castlevania clone, but the RPG elements are what makes it different. First of all, and one of the aspects that stands out the most, is that you can have allies. Yes, only one at a time though, but as you keep advancing and getting these keys, you will be able to switch between them. They'll fight by your side, by themselves, controlled by the AI, while following you around. Magic is highly noticeable here since it includes spells and books that you can use to fight your enemies. You can perform these attacks using one book or sacrificing a bar of your HP. So obviously the game's all about knowing when to use these magics and experimenting with your different party members. Last but not least, it's worth to mention that there are different routes to follow, with secret doors that allow you to bypass certain levels. This great hidden gem was also released on several Capcom collections and digital re-releases on different platforms. Number 7. Transistor. Transistor is a game developed by indie studio Supergiant Games, available on PC, PS4, Switch and mobile devices. Once again, it's a game that's often mislabeled as an action RPG. However, it's very linear, short and the RPG elements aren't really strong enough. But they are there and it's a very unique game, so it just had to be here, right? You will journey with Red and her talking sword, who will narrate the entire adventure tirelessly. You're actually thrown into this dystopian universe without understanding a single thing. Upon advancing, little by little, you will start to comprehend what the hell is going on. The game plays in an isometric view, with Red fighting against several types of robotic enemies. Abilities are assigned to each button and you learn several of them. This plays a major role here because instead of losing a life, you will temporarily lose one of these abilities. Lose all 4 that you assigned for battle and it'll be game over. Battles are real time, but you can freeze it to strategically plan the order of your attacks and the positioning of your character. It takes a while to get used to this battle system, but the game's fairly balanced, so it's not that bad. Overall, Transistor is a very original but straightforward game, definitely not an RPG, but with some interesting elements here and there. Number 6. Fragile Dreams. Farewell, Ruins of the Moon. Here's yet another original game, but one that's extremely unique and hard to label. It's basically a cross-genre, but in the end, it's just an adventure game by Core by Kentaro Kawashima from Tree Crescendo. With beautiful colors and music, Fragile Dreams is yet another post-apocalyptic story. You take control of Seto, whose grandfather has recently passed away. After reading a letter from him that tells him to go to a tower where he'll find survivors, Seto's journey begins. He finds this weird girl who seems to be connected with the origins of the ruined Tokyo, therefore these two becomes part of his endeavor. Because of its survival horror elements, you'll barely be able to see anything on certain areas, but that's made on purpose to make you look for clues. Seto will also find a machine that will help him on his quest, unlocking clues and, well, just making conversation. Here you'll have to go around with a flashlight and fight ghosts. This is where the motion controls come in, as you need to aim with the Wiimote at the screen so you can efficiently hurt some of them. Why? Because the light makes them vulnerable. You will gain experience points by fighting all types of enemies. Now, since Fragile Dreams is a highly unique game, it's hard to explain how the boss battles will be, as every one of them has very different requirements. In the end though, it's not exactly a role-playing game, but its elements are there to give the gameplay even more variety. Number 5. Trapped. Trapped is part of the Deception series, some bizarre but also unique games that started back on the PlayStation. The first one was an action RPG in first person where the goal was to set traps to kill your enemies. The others were in third person, but the RPG banner was gone. Trapped was the only one released on the PlayStation 2, and it acts more like a spin-off than anything. You take control of Princess Alicia, translated as Allura for whatever reason. She and her retainer Rachel escape the castle when somebody kills the king. Her stepmother, the Queen Catalina, frames her from this to make matters worse. Rachel and Alicia arrive in a mansion for safe haven, which is where most of the game will take place. Upon forming a pact with the mysterious entity, Alicia acquires the power of using traps. So the game revolves around you running around the different rooms of the mansion while positioning your traps to stop and kill your enemies. Where you put them and how you use them will have to vary depending on the type of foe you will face. Or you can just stick with the usual set of 3 traps if you feel more comfortable. So your strategies influence how much points and money you'll get, which act a little bit like an experience system. Especially since that's how you acquire new traps and their respective upgrades. Trapped is quite the hidden gem, definitely if you want to try something completely different from any type of game whatsoever. Number 4. The Legend of Valkyrie. This one is a classic arcade game that remained in Japan for quite some time until its inclusion on Namco Museum Volume 5 on the PlayStation. There was also a port on the PC Engine, but once again, only in Japan. You play as Valkyrie in a quest to defeat the evil lord in order to bring peace back to Marvel Land. You might recognize her as she is one of the many playable characters in Namco Cross Capcom and the Project Cross Zone games. Also, this game is a sequel to another only in Japan game that, well, it's not very good in my opinion. A top-down view perspective awaits you as you control Valkyrie fighting enemies with her different magics. These are bound to her sword and can be either obtained randomly or purchased from the shop you'll see several times throughout the game. Because of this, it might feel a little bit like a shoot-'em-up of some sorts. Often you will encounter characters that will give you clues or magic spells. The sense of exploration is what also gives the game some RPG elements. You see, depending on how you explore, you might find useful stuff or money. For so to say, it plays similarly to the first Legend of Zelda game. If you can't get your hands on the PS1 port, try the TurboGrafx Mini, where the game was also released. Or you can just emulate the many versions of it just to see the differences. I personally recommend the other two though, since they're the best out there to play, in my opinion. Number 3. Advanced Guardian Heroes. Remember that cult classic game on the Sega Saturn? Well, this is its sequel on the Game Boy Advance. Here you choose a customized warrior to fight the heroes from the previous game to earn their powers. It's basically a beat 'em up with RPG elements, and those revolve around leveling up after each mission. You will be able to distribute points on the status of your character, of course, so depending on them he will perform differently with each type of attack. It's all into building the combos though, even jumping around and kicking about. The controls are surprisingly decent considering the GBA wasn't exactly great for action games. It can feel very technical at times but also satisfying to beat the crap out of your enemies. However, some of them will require different means for you to destroy them, sometimes involving the use of magic. I gotta admit, it's a very good follow-up to the classic on the Saturn, which also influenced the action RPG on the 3DS and Switch called Code of Princess. After all, that game was made by remnants of the development team behind these two amazing games. Number 2. Grimoire. Not too long ago, I included this game on my top 10 amazing games with strong RPG elements video. So if I had to take one, just one game from it to cover again, it just had to be this one. Simply because it was the absolute best in there. It's a real-time strategy game with tower defense elements. I'll explain again just in case you haven't watched that other video. You control Lilith Blanc, a student who joins the magic school far away from home. Here she'll learn how to control several different books, known as grimoires, to summon runes and creatures. The plot will highly focus on how Lilith seems to be coming back in time, sort of like in the Groundhog Day, all revolving around the mysterious Philosopher's Stone. Battles will take place in these vertical areas. The goal will vary from destroying all enemy runes or surviving for a period of time. You need to position your runes and then defend them with whatever creatures you'll have at your disposal. Some, like the elves or the ghosts for example, will gather mana crystals that you'll need to summon anything else. With a point and click system, you'll then have to lead your fighting summons to either attack, defend, or simply search and destroy. The grimoires will level up after each mission, of course. I strongly recommend this excellent hidden gem on the PS2, developed by Vanillaware, creators of Odin Sphere and Dragon's Crown. Number 1. Danganronpa, another episode, Ultra Despair Girls. Nope, it's not your classic Danganronpa. No visual novel, no puzzle elements. This is an action game which is both a third-person shooter and a hack and slash. In this extremely weird-ass wacko of a game, you'll control two heroines. Komaru, who will have a megaphone as a weapon, and Toko, who will fight with razor-sharp scissors. You can't just switch between them as you please though. To use Toko, you'll have to charge the stun gun so she can change into her other personality, Genocide Jack. Most of the time you'll be fighting these Monokuma clones that have spawned everywhere in the city. This game is basically a spin-off of the series, supposedly taking place between the events of the first two games. It revolves around these two girls trying to escape the city, because this one seems to be under the control of a group of psychopath kids who want to kill all the adults in the world. Yeah. Several scenes will play out randomly, making you feel as if you were indeed playing an RPG. Progressing through this crazy dystopia will let you upgrade your weapons and customize several different skills. So if you're up for a very chaotic experience with RPG elements, try out this little spin-off. It's also available on the PlayStation 4 and PC. Alright guys, that's it. I know there are plenty more hidden gems with RPG elements. If you know some of them, leave them in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!